Hey travelers, Mag and I here on day 325 of our trip around the United States. This is it, we've made it, we are in our last day of Washington. Today we'll be covering, well, I don't actually know how many miles we'll be covering. When I was doing the routing in this part of the planning, the roads along this stretch were closed, so everything that I tried to auto route on wasn't doing it. So I just gave myself 2 days to go ahead and do this. My guess is we'll be covering roughly 300 to 350 miles today to close out the last of the pages that we need in this section of Washington. Once we hit the I-5, we are done with the pages. The last thing on our day today is going to be the County Challenge Final, and then we are done with the state. This morning, we woke up in Winthrop to a beautiful morning out here in the forested mountains in northern Washington. And Aichan is full of energy. She really wants to get out there and hit the trails, which is perfect because the place that I stopped us last night was right before a virtual that leads out to a suspension bridge. It's a little more than a half-mile walk out to get there and a half-mile walk to get back. That's really our only major hike of the day today. That's gonna help to wear down the rest of our energy because once we're done here, we're gonna hop on Highway 20 and head west for the rest of the day until we can get that county challenge just outside of Marysville. So let's see what this hike has in front of us, and let's see what the last of our route here in Washington has in store. Come on, let's go.
We begin our adventure for the day with a hike out along the Methow Community Trail, which runs along the Methow River between the towns of Mazama and Winthrop. The trail stretches on for an impressive 20 miles, but Aichan and I will not be hiking anywhere near that far. Our goal, the suspension bridge that crosses the Methow River, is only about a mile down from parking. Along the way, opposite the riverbank, we come across a wall that features a myriad of animals across its surface. An added bonus to discover as our paws continue to eat away the distance to the bridge.
She is really cooking along this morning. This is the fastest I've seen her consistently move in quite a while. Love that happy smile too. Hopefully by the time we get finished with this walk, that energy will be gone, so she'll be okay with the drive for the rest of the day. If not, well, then maybe I'll find us a few more spots to get out and hike, because if she's got the ump for it, oh, I want to do it.
Crossing the bridge, we come across a poem. Fog in the morning here will make some of the world far away, and the near only a hint. But rain will feel its blind progress along the valley, tapping to convert one boulder at a time into a glistening fact. Daylight will love what came, whatever fits will become, whatever steps back in the fog will disappear and hardly exist. You hear the river saying a prayer for all that's gone. Far over the valley there is an island for everything left, and our own island will drift there too, unless we hold on, unless we tap like this. Friend, are you there? Will you touch when you pass, like the rain?
Great way to start the day. Now, let's get hitting the road and see how many of those miles we can get covered by the end of the day.
With our hike complete, the road begins to take us along the North Cascades Scenic Byway. This scenic highway stretches for 140 miles through the Cascade Loop, surrounded by jagged peaks and valleys. This drive through what is often referred to as the American Alps is arguably one of the most scenic drives in the entire state. It is a steady gain in elevation to climb into these mountains, with tight hairpin turns and amazing views all along the way. Each time we reach a pullout at the top of one of these hairpin turns, we are encouraged to stop, either to take in the view in front of us or soak in one of the waterfalls behind us. Reaching the top of the pass to clear to the other side of the mountains, we find ourselves at an elevation well above 5,000 feet, staring up at the tops of the mountains above us, stretching to more than 9,000 feet.
Believe it or not, I'm not counting this as snow. This high up in the mountains, this is totally expected. And it's not on the road and not coming down out of the sky. This is exactly the way I like to see snow, on the way through it when it's already on the ground and not in my way.
The North Cascade Mountain Range spans the border between the Canadian province of British Columbia and Washington. This landscape is characterized by a large amount of precipitation, which mostly comes down in snow and results in the formation of glaciers. Those glaciers are the root cause of the dramatic uplift of the mountains in the area, having carved out deep U-shaped valleys during the last ice ages. It creates a stark contrast between the valleys, rivers, and lakes of this area as opposed to the sharp ridges and peaks found above. Descending from the heights at the pass, we make our next stop just outside the city of Newhalem at the Gorge Powerhouse. This powerhouse was responsible for sending the first electricity from the Skagit Hydro Project to Seattle in 1924. Bridges to cross the Skagit River can be located on either side of the powerhouse, one designed for vehicular traffic and one designed for pedestrians. Having already had a good taste of crossing a suspension bridge earlier this morning, Ai-chan exhibited no problems getting out there and hiking her way across the Skagit River with me. Across the other side of the bridge, we discover a garden that wraps completely around the powerhouse, offering us views out over the Skagit River and several points along Ladder Creek Falls. The gardens here were inspired by J.D. Ross, known as the father of Seattle City Light. This garden has been a highlight for visitors to the area for nearly 100 years, stretching back all the way to the 1930s. At its prime, the gardens contained lush, tropical plants that visitors could walk through while enjoying an evening light show and listening to music. That light show was restored by Seattle City Light in 2011, re-illuminating the forested falls with a rainbow of colors. While we didn't get to enjoy that aspect as we were visiting in the middle of the day, I've definitely put it on a list to come back and check out one night when we're in the Seattle area. While the falls have lost much of their power over time due to the dam upstream, they are still quite the sight to see. With a constant source of refreshment from glacial melt, there is always water to be seen coming over the falls. A hidden little gem of a trail that we only were able to discover due to the geocache hidden out here. Our hiking for the day is not quite over yet though, as we still have the Trail of the Cedars to take on. Fortunately for Ai-chan though, this trail is short, very short, only stretching for about 1/3 of a mile across the suspension bridge. During both crossings, on the way out and on the way back again, we couldn't help but stop and appreciate the view over the beautiful Skagit River below us. For our last couple of pages, we jump off the scenic highway and into the Mount Baker-Snoqualmie National Forest. This national forest runs right up to the border of Canada, stretching from the western slopes of the Cascade Range to the northern boundary of Mount Rainier National Park. Normally, this far out, the targets would be quite limited, but not on this stretch of road. Following right along next to the Seattle River, there are geocaches to be found pretty much every 500 feet out here. More than happy to make these short treks into the woods, Ai-chan and I make frequent stops, going well above and beyond the target list for the day. Each ground zero offers us an opportunity to enjoy the fresh mountain air, the sounds of the forest, and add our name to a log. Before we knew it, we had tracked down the better part of a dozen geocaches, and it felt like we had spent pretty much no time out here at all.
This is quite the adventure we were having in this lonely forest today. But it is so nice that there's not only a ton of geocaches to be able to be found out here, but look at the size of many of these containers. This is the norm, not the exception. This is a run I could definitely get down with.
And that is exactly what we did, spanning our way across 2 DeLorme pages, picking random geocaches off the map to come track down. I count myself fortunate that the only micros we came across at all in this run were placed at or within easily identifiable geo-beacons. Then we came across something we had not anticipated, a cleverly camouflaged geocache with a logbook that had not been signed in years.
This is already beyond the detour that I need to take for this page deep in the National Forest, but this geocache, the last one that I found, and looking at the road ahead, all of them are 3 years plus lonely. I think I'm gonna go ahead and find a few more of these.
Once we finally finish playing around in the National Forest, we come into the small town of Concrete with a population of about 800 people. This town saw its first beginnings in 1890, then known as Minnehaha. By the time the post office came to town in 1905, the name had been changed to Baker. By 1908, a second settlement, known as Cement City, had popped up just across the river around the Portland Cement Company. It was not too long at all that those 2 settlements became one, being renamed as Concrete on May 8th of 1909. While here, we pursue a couple of stages from an adventure lab and track down a geocache hidden at the Concrete Heritage Museum, formerly known as the Camp 7 Logging Museum. The museum is focused on educating visitors about the industrial history of the region while maintaining a collection dedicated to the Superior Portland Cement Company, the Lower Baker Dam, and the logging in the region. We take our time exploring around the museum grounds before making one last jump down the road to track down our final geocache target for the state of Washington.
Very last target for the state? It's the Washington County Challenge Final. That's it. All the pages, all the counties. Now let's head over to Olympia and finish this thing off in style.
To finish off our day and our trip through the state, we come into the city of Olympia, the county seat of Thurston County and the capital of Washington State. First incorporated as a town on January 28th of 1859, Olympia would experience rapid growth over the next couple of decades, achieving its status as a city in 1882. Even before Olympia had experienced any growth though, it had been named as the capital of Washington with the establishment of the territory in 1853, primarily for its advantageous location at the southernmost point of the Puget Sound. Over the next couple of years, there was some churn to try and get the capital of Washington moved to another city, but the territorial legislature confirmed its designation in 1855, making it the one and only capital city to serve Washington as a territory and a state. Upon Olympia's designation as the capital city of the Washington Territory, Edmund Sylvester, the city's founder, donated 12 acres of land upon which to build the Capitol building. Up on a hilltop above the donated land, they would construct a 2-story wooden frame building where the legislature would begin meeting in 1854. By the time Washington had achieved statehood, the legislature had grown well beyond the confines of that small wooden building. With the approval of the state's constitution in 1889, President Benjamin Harris donated an additional 132,000 acres of federal lands to be used for the sole purpose of generating income for the construction of a new state capitol building. It was decided by the State Capitol Commission that rather than building one single large building, that they would construct a facility of several buildings to serve the Capitol's needs. There are numerous memorials to explore around the campus, including one for law enforcement, World War I, World War II, Medal of Honor recipients, and POW MIA. My personal favorite though, carved out of granite, is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, designed by Chris Snyder and dedicated on May 25th of 1987. The semicircular wall of the memorial, stretching for about 45 feet, ranges in height from 1 foot to 7 foot tall. It bears the names of more than 1,000 men and women from Washington State who never returned home.
All right, that is a wrap. Not only for our time spent exploring the Capitol building grounds here in Olympia, but also for the state of Washington in general. It has been a great week spent exploring the state, and most of it has been spent in the mountains, in the forests, and in the lonelier parts of the state, because all of the parts that are really populated and the entire coast are already places we've done, so we had to come in and get the more rural spots in Washington, which was just fine for me. We began our morning in Winthrop, and from there we've been moving through the mountains and the national forests pretty much all day long. We started off our morning with that hike on the suspension bridge, which was perfect to get Aichon rested up enough for the day ahead while we just drove from one target to the next. We managed to take what was 2 days worth of routing, bring it down into one, and we're gonna also knock out the rest of our drive down into Oregon. So we'll start off tomorrow just a little bit ahead of where our schedule is, and that's gonna give us a great edge. I hope you guys have enjoyed taking this tour of Washington State with us. Like this video, subscribe, stay tuned for updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.